Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. I hope we meet you well. Let's look at security. Well, an aspect of it this morning. Security is such a wide subject matter, various aspects of it, but especially the terrorism part. I'm talking here about Iswap and the threat of Iswap, and indeed how we maintain national security by way of synergizing the efforts of the armed forces to get on top of this scourge. To have this conversation with us this morning, we're so grateful that Brigadier General S.K. Usman retired, S.K. as in Sani Kukashioka Usman. He is the former spokesman, Nigerian Army. Good morning to you, General.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on your program.
Indeed, it is our pleasure. First of all, one can't even ask perhaps how much of a threat you think it is, ISWAP is to our national security, because anybody would, I imagine, just go the straightforward route and say, there must be a big threat. But let me ask a question. How big a threat are they, especially as they are making threats and are able to make good on their threats in the face of our own security architecture and the armed forces? Now, General, we've heard that, you see, the part of the issue is that the war against terrorists is not exactly like conventional warfare. We know that. But the question to you is, so what do we do to synergize the efforts of the armed forces, the specialists involved therein, to be able to get on top of this problem?
Well, first and foremost, I think you are asking two questions. Number one, the issue of Islamic State of West African Province, a splinter group of the Boko Haram terrorist group, whether it constitutes a threat. Yes, it does. Why? Because if you recall, the continued onslaught on the terrorists, especially in the northeastern part of the country, has to a large extent affected the efficacy, the ability of the terrorist group, and hence for them to remain relevant and panning out from that northeast region to other geopolitical regions of the country. Therefore, it's not something that we should take for granted. But that notwithstanding, we know for certain that a lot of the terrorists are now surrendering. In fact, they have now set up a task force among themselves to discourage those foot soldiers from surrendering to the Nigerian forces. So you can say that it's still a threat. But coming to what should be done, already we have been seeing what should be done, the dividends of what should be done. It's only that we require improvement on that. Take, for instance, all the services chiefs, if you look at their respective visions, you realize that they emphasize on jointness. That means no one can do it alone. Right from the Nigerian Army, Nigerian Navy, and the Nigerian Air Force, they operate collectively and in most instances simultaneously under the strategic direction of the President Commander-in-Chief through, of course, the normal chain of command of the Chief of Defense Staff. Hence, you have seen the successes being recorded, both in the northwest and, of course, the northeast, and, of course, other parts of the country. Typical example is what happened just recently in Owo. The security forces have risen to the occasion through joint efforts beyond even the armed forces with other security agencies, the police and the Department of State Services, including the NSDC too. So you see, what we require more is that continuous synergy and collaboration. But beyond that, again, there is need for coordination at higher levels so that we should not leave them at their devices, at the individual services level. And with that, you can see more improvement in their performances. With that, what I'm trying to say here is that whenever you are faced with security challenges like we are experiencing in this country, there should be galvanizing, galvanization of the Nigerian society, a whole societal approach to solving the problem, because it is not everything that the security forces will solve, particularly the armed forces of Nigeria. There are certain things that are political. There are certain things that are deeply rooted into our national existence as a nation. They have cultural and other underpinnings that other segments of Nigerian society could be able to treat them. So with that, you can see the work being done by the security agencies will improve. Not only improve, you will see it even, excellently well. So they are doing the best they could to ensure that they synergize among themselves. But they need more support, particularly from, the Nigerian society. What makes other societies, particularly the civilized, so-called civilized societies of first world, is the resilience of the citizens. Take, for instance, the United States of America. It is the citizens that make the United States of America. So unless you galvanize the Nigerian society, make them resilient, where they always understand the existential threat that we are facing with the same frame of mind, then whatever the security agencies are doing might not be, the way you want it to be. Therefore, there is need for more understanding, cooperation on the parts of the Nigerian society. And there are certain government agencies that have to play more role in this aspect.
You said,
and if I may add further, is the fact that the media as it is, which you represent, plays a very critical role in this instance. But of course, the media need to be further nudged and supported to do that, so that the whole Nigerian society will be taken on board. They will be able to support, cooperate with the security forces.
Okay. You said in there that, look, there are also this particular challenge that we're all facing. Iswap, as people know, Islamic State of West African Province, is an offshoot and a violent offshoot of Boko Haram and all of that. You said that there were cultural and indeed political aspects to the matter, even if those weren't exactly at the fore. And then you've also said that the citizenry also has a crucial role to play. Now, this seems to me to be where the whole complication comes in. On the one hand, I don't know if it is seen that, look, we can't really deploy the, terrible might of the Nigerian armed forces on these fighters because in some cases, maybe in many cases, they are actually Nigerians as well. And so we're just hoping that, they will come around. We've even heard sometimes about repentant fighters. I don't know if those were Iswap or Boko Haram. So there's been this whole aspect on the one hand. Maybe that's the cultural part. The political part as well is a complication. Now, you said that more coordination is needed from the highest quarters. All of these, do they sort of mix? Do they mix in between the cultural, the political, and whether or not we can get a much better coordination and support from the highest quarters?
I think they are doing the best they could, but like everything in life, definitely we need more of it. And if you look at the National Security Strategy 2019, it apportions roles and responsibilities to the various components of Nigerian society. In fact, there should have been a joint coordination body of security architecture of this country that is supposed to be established, is yet to be established, even though we still have some level of coordination, but I think we need to take it a higher notch than that. Because if you leave it at that instances, sometimes the capacities and capabilities of some of the services might not necessarily be readily available that they can be able to support each other. So if there is a coordinating body or more coordination, they can be able to kind of a clearing house that will always take, for instance, now, if you look at the criminal justice system between, let's say, the Nigerian police force and, of course, the correctional service, wherever there are issues, there should be synergy at the level of the commandant general, at the level of the inspector general of police. But beyond that, again, there are certain issues that they have to refer to the higher authorities, and the higher authority will coordinate. And that is why we have had, take for instance, if you look at the issue of the recent attack on the mediums holding facility, I'm talking about Koje, you know, the earliest responders were the military. When under normal circumstances, there should have been lead agency when it comes to internal security, even though we are in a state of undeclared war because of the level of insurgency, kidnapping, banditry, and terrorism as it is. So these are some of the nitty-gritties that need to be, you know, fine-tuned to ensure that there is proper coordination among these services so that we can have that. But beyond that, the Nigerian populace has a critical role to play. You don't expect the army or the Air Force or the police to be, you know, also mobilizing the people. There should be a government approach to that aspect that could support. And we should be able to condemn evil wherever it happens. Not that some people will be celebrating it while others are condemning it. We have a divided house. We should have a kind of, you know, a united Nigeria where whenever things happen, wherever they happen, whichever part of the country it happens, every Nigerian will see it from the same perspective and will be readily available to assist in any way he or she can. And with that, we can be able to strangle the freedom of action and movement of these criminal elements within the society, because they are a negligent percentage given the 200 million population of Nigeria or more.
What, General, do you think is militating against this, shall I just say, the wokeness of the civil society, of the citizenry? Because you know, from time to time we hear alarms being raised. Nobody wants fighters, you know, coming into the area. We see this, but we also are living in a society where, on the one hand, everybody, every Nigerian is free to travel until people see suspicious kind of travelings and movements, and then when they do make sort of warnings, again, this has to be subjected to scrutiny to be sure that this is indeed what is being alleged, or it might just be a xenophobic tendency. So these complications, I wonder if those are the kind of things that make the authorities not be exactly being able to, as they say, turn on a dime. And it is when matters are left, then they sort of fester, and then we end up where we are. Because Nigerians, you hear reports of people saying that, oh, a lorry load of people under some disguise, under some bicycles, under some things, they just landed at a certain area. I don't know what else, because I do know that the security forces, the various arms of security, do have their intelligence units. One might have thought that, I mean, how well is that working? Maybe that's the question to ask, because when the authorities know then the authorities can act effectively.
Well, exactly that is the problem. You know, there are divisible tendencies among the components of Nigerian society. And if we will address this question in proper perspective, let's look at even the issue of repentant, Boko Haram terrorists. It's something that has not happened anywhere in the world. You have them in tens of thousands, surrendering. Some years back, it started, and the military took the lead, accepting them, not in their fault, but by the time they laid down their arms, profiling them, investigating them, and beyond the military, that is where the Nigerian society will come into play, because the military has limitation. They are trained to fight. That aspect of it, the Nigerian society should have taken care of it. Now we have even an unprecedented number of it. If not for the concerted effort of Borno State government and the Operation Hadinkai, we would have had a serious problem where you have over 60,000 fighters that laid down their arms, and they need to profiled, investigated, and possibly prosecuted. And those that are not found guilty, we should have a form of rehabilitating them and integrating them into the society. The military has come up with a novel idea, Operation Safe Corridor, but that has a problem in the sense that the whole society approach is not there. Those that were rehabilitated, those that were trained, those who were certified to be fit, be taken back into the society is reluctant in taking them back. It's understandable because there hasn't been buy-in of the people that are concerned. And of course, the military cannot continue to be doing it all by themselves. And even Borno State government, as it were, with meager resources, they are managing it. How do you think that will last? I mean, how long do you think that will last? So the justice mechanism has to come into play. That is one. Secondly, whenever you are faced with security challenges of this magnitude, there should be a whole society's approach. Building the citizen resilience to ensure that everybody has a role to play. And in making sure that everybody has a role to play, you have to empower them. It might not necessarily be political, financial or pecuniary. No, sometimes it is question of sensitization, enlightenment, the level of security education, the sense of belonging also. And to what extent have you improved the social security and safety nets for the Nigerian citizens so that he or she will see that the government or the Nigerian society is equally there for him or her, so that he will contribute whenever he sees something or he heard something, and towards he can be able to report. And of course, there are areas that he will report or means of reporting and safeguards of his life and property in case if it is something that is so dangerous. So these are the issues that I'm talking about. And unless we go back to the drawing board, and we have left some of these things many years back. By the time in 1999, Nigeria opted for democratic governance, we ought to have understood that issues will come up. Issues of this nature will come up. That means you have to strengthen institutions. That means you have to, sensitize Nigerians about the rudiments of democracy. In case if there are grievances, someone can just go and get remedy for whatever grievances he has or she has. Not that people should take law into their hands, or people will think that the Nigerian society do not like them, because those are the basis for violent extremism that we are experiencing in this country. Then beyond that, again, we have a large population of youth. And I always say the mainstaying power of this country is not the mineral resources. It is the human resources. God has blessed us with incredible, wonderful people that just give them the opportunity. You can make the best out of them positively. To what extent are we investing in that in terms of employment, in terms of education, in terms of infrastructures, in terms of all the social amenities, so that people that wanted to aspire to become somebody in society, they can do illegitimately without thinking that unless they resort to violence, they can do that. And these are the kind of things that need to be done or needed to be done so that we can be able to address some of these challenges. Not every time you just, whenever you have security challenge, you just call in the military in particular or security forces. There are some of them we have time-tested complete resolution mechanisms that we have abandoned. And now the AK-47 seems to be the deciding factor in the Nigerian society. It shouldn't be so. We are gradually militarizing the Nigerian society when there are better ways and better options. And those things are very simple. Let's go back to good governance and make sure that we give an average Nigerian greater sense of belonging so that he or she will know how to contribute his best towards the development of this country, not that everybody is left on his own.
Indeed, because that is the fundamental, shall we say, flaw, the flaw of this whole phenomenon that we are confronting. Terrorists that have actually been, documentaries have been made, journalists have gone into the bush or wherever their camps, they've been embedded with them, they've spoken with them, and what you're saying has very much been said, that they feel nobody cares about them, nobody listens to them, but they will listen to my AK-47, they will listen to my wreaking havoc. So, as you said, good governance, of course, good governance will certainly go a long way. But part of good governance is a corruption-free society. And from time to time, it has been said that, do we have the resources to do all that you have outlined, for example? There are those who will argue that, indeed, we do, if not all, a very close mark to the ultimate. But it is not done, and this possibly, so the charge goes, could be due to corruption. They say that this is a cash cow. This insecurity is a cash cow, and there's so many interests that are benefiting from it and don't want to see it resolved. Examine that hypothesis.
Well, there is no doubt about the fact that the concept of war economy or conflict entrepreneurs is a phenomenon associated with complex situations. And to understand it better, if we will take the issue of kidnapping, for instance, whereby people are abducted like animal, maltreated, and thereafter were subjected to so many inhumanities and made to pay ransom to the tune of millions. And now people negotiate after the abduction, and people also carry out surveillance or reconnaissance on the likely target, and people procure arms, people procure drugs, people also even give them social amenities and what have you and other logistics. Who are those people? People, there is no doubt about the fact that a lot of people are benefiting from this unfortunate circumstances we found ourselves, not just the perpetrators of the crimes. Because there were even instances, kidnap incidents where let's say, 5 million naira ransom was paid. The average kidnapper hardly get as much as 500,000 out of it. So what happened to 4,500,000? Some people are benefiting from it because they are either banking it or investing it for them or keeping it safe. Because I cannot imagine a kidnapper in the bush will be moving about with 5 million on him. It is not possible. So this is a very vicious cycle that unless we break it and find out those that are benefiting and stop them from benefiting, then we will continue to be having similar problem. It's just like what is happening in the Northeast. Despite the atrocities of the Boko Haram terrorists, there are still people supplying logistics to them. Take for instance, a gallon of petrol costs as much as 10,000 naira, and you still some people giving. And even in the Northwest, when state governments ban, selling of petrol, in fact, closing some filling stations and what have you. You still found some people flouting those roles simply because they see it as a business. And there are people that, most of these people, they are not normal human beings like you and I. They live on stimulants. And what are those stimulants? Tramol and other hard drugs and what have you. People are supplying it to them. So it's a kind of value chain. Unless we break that value chain, we will definitely. And of course, beyond that also, corruption manifests itself in various facets, or even in the public service as to where, people will be asked to procure equipment and they will not do the needful, in the sense that, look at what are the specifications, what are those needed things, do we follow through, do we inspect, are the equipment that we are purchasing the required equipment, and are we adhering to our public procurement acts, and all these things. So many things. And unless you check them, you will still get the same results.
So it looks like it's a very circuitous kind of a thing. Sometimes where we start is where we have to come and begin again. This administration, the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, there was so much hope when it was coming aboard that, look, nobody could pull the wool over a former general's eyes. He knows the score, perhaps so much more so than a civilian, so to speak. And, the promise in the minds of Nigerians was that he knew the nitty-gritty, he would be able to address it. Here we are, almost 8 years on. Arguably, things are not much different, even though the authorities cite to us instances where gains have been made. Not much difference, holistically speaking, from when he first took office. This is a frustrating matter to most Nigerians, so much so that they're getting impatient with the matter. General, can you understand the impatience of the people that oh, okay, you're having a difficulty. I was saying that I was asking that we've been working at this. President Muhammadu Buhari, when he came on board, being an ex-general, it was felt that, no, he knew the score and that we were in very, very good hands in relation to this particular task, perhaps more so than if he had been a civilian. Arguably, Nigerians are becoming impatient because we're hearing that people can't just sleep well. So there's a sense in which they've been at it for almost 8 years now, and this is where we are. Can you understand the frustration of most ordinary Nigerians?
I do. And I'm also an ordinary Nigerian. And I feel the pulse of people on a daily basis, and I understand and appreciate their concern. However, one thing we should understand is that times are changing, security challenges kept on, mutating and manifest in various forms. If we can recall back, way back 2014 and early 2015, in fact, up to December, let's say up to October 2015, you can recall the number of checkpoints even within the Federal Capital Territory itself. Talk less of going to the airport, or either you are heading towards Jos or Lafia, or you are heading towards Kaduna, and so many other parts of the country. And there were instances, all the symbol of democracy and security in this country were desecrated, in the sense that a military barracks within the Federal Capital Territory was bombed. The whole police headquarters was bombed. A United Nations building was bombed. And bus terminus was bombed. Some media houses were bombed in Kaduna and Abuja. And I'm not even talking about places of worships and markets. And when you also look at that time, for the first time in Nigerian history, since the unfortunate Nigerian Civil War, a particular violent group took possession of some part of landmass of this country and call it part of their Islamic Republic. That is no more. The checkpoints have gone. The suicide bombings have gone. What we have now are kidnapping, banditry, and of course, the activities of these insurgents in pockets. So there is a kind of tremendous progress if you look at it from that perspective. But the fact remains that an average Nigerian would like to sleep with his or her two eyes closed and would like to move as at when he or she feel like. And I will give you an example. Those people in the northern part of the country, if they want to go to Lagos, in those days, they don't even travel in daytime. They travel by night. But now, even traveling by day, a distance of, let's say, 200 kilometers is a nightmare to an average Nigerian, simply because of the menace of kidnappers. But then, you know, given the numbers of the security forces you have, they cannot be in every inch. And most of these kidnappers and bandits, they operate in consonant with some unscrupulous element within the society that benefit from that. I'm talking about the activities of the informant, but of course it is not their fault. It is the absence or the lacuna being created in the issue of governance in this country. We have three tiers of governments: the federal, the state, and the local government. Now we have only two tiers that are working: the federal and the state. The local government is virtually almost non-existent, but it exists in two instances. When young people want to enlist into the police or security forces or the armed forces, they go for indigenous form, or whenever there is a allocation from the federal government, some of the overhead costs, it will be released on Friday. By Saturday, the local government is broke. And it is there to serve the purpose of the people. And unless we address that issue, we continue to experience the kind of security challenges we are having now. Then issue number two, I made reference to the fact that we are supposed to put safeguards to support our democratic process, strengthening our institutions. That include the security architecture, the judiciary, so that they can be able to be there for the common man. But you know what justice is to an average common man in the Nigerian society. Then there is no country in the world that is living in peace without a good policing system. Even the Vatican has police. But I know of countries without armed forces. To what extent have we invested in our policing system over time? So these are the issues that brought about the security challenges that we're having. And I can understand the frustration of an average Nigerian, because the government is supposed to be there as enshrined of the Section 14 of the Constitution, that primary responsibility of the government is the protection of lives and properties of Nigerians. So these are the issues. And unfortunately, the issue of not looking at things from, broader perspective, bringing everybody on board in terms of dealing with security challenges, that is why we are having this problem. If you look at all the security instances that have happened, challenges that happened in recent times, take for instance the Kaduna Abuja train attack, the Owo attack, even the Kuje Correctional Services, people saw those attackers. People have assisted these attackers. Some people even provided logistics. So, you see, that is the problem. And everybody is feeling it now.
Allegedly, the
so
authorities
it's not something
knew.
that happened overnight.
Allegedly, the authorities were informed through intelligence, for example, with the Kuje Correctional Facility. As I say, allegedly, we can't know what the intelligence transmission is between the authority and sources of those intelligence. It is alleged that they ignored intelligence that was sent. And these people, they did the abominable thing, abomination from the point of view of most ordinary members of society. You can't spring suspects from a jail. So they did. They could, they did. And this sort of demoralizes everybody. Additionally, you were speaking earlier about local government here being almost non-existent. I'm sure you are aware of the notorious case of a bandit that was actually made a chief up in the north. And yes, the concerned government has taken a dim view of it. In fact, I think has suspended the emir who did that. But it just goes to show you everybody is coming up with their own devices as to how to go about appeasing, is that the word to use, but addressing the situation. In Kaduna, the governor there has said that he tried that particular route once, but no more. Now we have an emir actually bestowing a chieftaincy title on a bandit who has been able to speak in the public, saying that, you know, he wasn't really going to go for it, but he was advised to go for it. So these are surreal. These are surreal and surreal kind of events. And you don't hear very much of the court systems being involved. Since how many terrorists have been brought to book, brought to the court, have been tried, and so everybody sees that, okay, in the midst of all the chaos, we're still trying to work at it, and there is evidence that, you know, if you're apprehended, you'll be dealt with, even if it is a tiny corner of the matter. Perhaps all of these could also help the psychology, since you said the citizens are also an important part of this fight against terrorism.
Well, unfortunately, I lost what you are saying. But if you are hearing me,
we can hear you.
Okay, fine. All these issues that you have raised, first, let's even start about the issue of the intelligence. You know, at the onset, I talked about the coordination, which is very, very important. But thankfully, now that aspect is being addressed. You know, particularly the armed forces, I know they are cooperating with other security agencies, and the other security agencies are also cooperating with them. But the coordination seems to be lagging behind. Hence, we have all these accusation, counter accusations, having intelligence transmitted, and it was not acted on. And I'm sure something is being done about that. Then, talking about the issue of Zamfara, where a repentant, so-called repentant bandit was compared with the chieftaincy title of Sarkin Fulani of, is it Maradun or Endoto? I can't remember precisely. But the long and short of it is that it's part of the problem that we're having. And that is why even when they come out with that security directive in that state, in which citizens were encouraged to arm themselves, and a commissioner of police was tasked to also issue, you know, licenses to them, we raised that issue. The whole gamut of the strategies, nobody has mentioned the local government.
Well, apparently we lost the signal. Well, not all of it. For some for some reason, it looks as if it was the audio channel that's been lost. And we were speaking with Brigadier General S.K. Usman, retired, former spokesman of the Nigerian Army. And I was just going to, thank him for his, coming to talk with us, and let's look at some of the problems that are facing us on this whole matter. Our sincere appreciation to Brigadier General S.K. Usman, retired, former spokesman of the Nigerian Army. And now it's your turn at home, to look at this whole matter. It's a very, very big problem. The general was saying in there that there are cultural and political aspects to this whole situation. That in itself is a challenge. Cultural aspects to killings, maimings, and burning down of villages, and generally terrorizing the people. I'm not too sure what that means, but I imagine that there are shared cultural values, probably is it. Then he also talked about politics. He said cultural and political aspects of this whole matter. Do I have a caller? Ada in Jos. Good morning, ma'am.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Yuri. Your guest, I don't know, maybe he's no longer there.
Yeah.
Okay, now Ada calling from Jos Plateau State. Until insecurity is seen as a national priority, we will not get it right as a nation. The way forward is to do whatever it takes to secure lives and property, which is the primary duty of any responsible government. And then what I don't understand is this. The government always keeps telling us that there are so many ungoverned spaces. Who is supposed to govern it? I know I'm part of the system. I have my own role to play. But who is supposed to govern it? It's the government that is supposed to govern it. Then again, if we want to govern it, why can't we allow this state police thing? Because most crimes are local and should be, addressed starting from the local government, just like your guest mentioned, So there's an absence of that. We don't have enough boots on the ground. Now they have to do a coordinated, work in synergy. The military and the other security apparatus should work together. But what is lacking is that they don't do it simultaneously nationwide. Why should people be allowed to live in the forest at this point in time? Nobody should be allowed to live in the forest. They should cover all the forest, That is the problem we're having. Then the National Assembly, they are not helping matters. The hurried up went on research. What is the research for? Instead of them to declare a set of emergency on insecurity and do what they can do to allow us to have state police. It doesn't make, as far as I'm concerned, so far as we do not decentralize the police, we will not forge ahead as a people. Look at it now. When the army, the military, I commend them. When they finish securing those places, there are no boots on ground to hold those places. The Boko Haram, they will still come back there. It doesn't make sense. Why are we doing the same thing all over again? As far as I'm concerned, that is the major problem we're having in this country. And then those who, the government have once told us that they know those behind it. Why have they not prosecuted any of them? Then the Boko Haram, Mr. Lord, I don't know. I'll find it difficult to believe that those people have repented. It's very difficult. Look at Osama bin Laden. No matter all the relationship he had with all the countries, he still attacked them. So there's no way they can repent. I don't believe they have repented. Sorry about that. All the same, let's not give up on this country. We shall get better.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for calling in, Ada. I wonder if the last part of your submission, if that wasn't part of the cultural and political aspects to this phenomenon that the retired Brigadier General was referring to. Say retired Boko Haram fighters. You can see what that card is saying, and you can see that, as the general was saying, yeah, there have been some improvements in the sense, depending on how you look at it. But this whole matter about the cultural and political aspects, a lot of Nigerians, will have a difficulty understanding that, but for the fact that they feel, so we are hearing, neglected by the very authorities that have the responsibility to make sure that every Nigerian is safe and has, a decent kind of living. Good morning, Mr. George.
Uncle Yuri.
Thank you for calling in.
Uncle Yori, your guest said something that he suggested that a body should be set up for coordination of activities of security agencies. I thought that was the reason why we have a chief of defense staff who has a unit in his office that coordinates the activities of the Navy, the Army, and the Air Force. The synergy is the topic of your discussion today. This synergy, I'm personally still not seeing it. Only 2 days ago, the Air Force spokesperson was announcing how they killed a terrorist or some terrorists in Kaduna. But they didn't talk about how, after bombing them, how did those on ground, how did they coordinate and get things? It's supposed to be, a synergized operation. I'm not seeing that yet. They need to improve in that area. And then, granting Uncle Yori, he also talked about thousands of ex-Boko Haram members being rehabilitated. Are we sure that they are not the ones that move into other parts of the country and be operating as bandits? Like Ada said, I too do not believe that they can be repentant, judging from their mode of operation. You can see how they go to the prisons to release their members. I am not of the view that we should subject them to the judicial system. Any of them that you get, eliminate them, because you are wasting our money by keeping them in prison. At the end of the day, they come back and raid the prison and set their members free. We are the ones losing. And they go back to the bush again to be killing people. It's not that there is no justice system. The way things are now in our country, we need to be drastic about these criminals. They say you use likes to ward off likes.
Indeed.
How many criminals or bandits have been jailed since Boko Haram war started? None that I know.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Well, thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. And that, is a point that I was making earlier. We haven't seen that, there have been no prosecutions and jailings. Did I have another caller? Okay. Well, the general spoke about so many things. I suppose a very, very important one was the matter of we do need an improvement in the level of, good governance. One doesn't want to be unappreciative of efforts over the past 7 years or so, 7.5 years. But the situation is such that these people, from what we have heard from some of them, have arrived at the conclusion, erroneous conclusion, I hope it is from the point of view of the authorities, that they don't listen. They're not able to do anything for us. And he also spoke about, apart from the matter of good governance, he also did speak about coordination. So Mr. George has just explained, has just said that we didn't know that there was there was that missing, but it is what it is. Nigerians, quite frankly, don't know what to do, and so they are looking to the leadership for a solution to this matter once and for all. Maybe if we were to try some of those people and try them in courts of law, those that are guilty, indeed, you do what the law recommends for them, then people will know that we're taking this thing systematically, no matter how much of an edge of the tablecloth that it is, metaphorically speaking. But we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks once more to Brigadier General S.K. Usman, retired, former spokesman of the Nigerian Army. Time is not our friend, so we don't have any more time to take calls. But please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Iyori Folare. Bye-bye for now.